All right. Well, welcome to another episode of the Spurs Rewind. Today we're going to be joined by the lovely Vicky Vic, and we're also going to be joined by Josh Paredes and
Yes, nailed it.
me. I learned how to pronounce Josh's name for once. So I've been practicing. I've been rolling my R's, going, So I had to get some of my Latino out, my Latino blood flowing just to pronounce Josh's last name. So
Yeah,
welcome, Josh.
thanks.
Yeah. So how you guys been holding up? Spurs Twitter's been, burning to the ground as of late. Spurs went ahead and dropped another one against the Cleveland Cavaliers at home to complete the 9-game homestand, going 2-7. And they lost to the Cavaliers 125-101. They looked every bit defeated after this loss. Coach Pop really didn't have anything to say other than they look fried. And I thought that was a great analogy. They looked fried. So we're going to get into this. I heard a lot of the local radio stations here in San Antonio. They were talking about this San Antonio Spurs team and basically how they're playing below 500 ball. And they're not wrong in that assumption. And then they said a lot of other things that were just outlandish and out there. But we'll start with you, Vicky. Vicky, as of late, the San Antonio Spurs have not looked very good. Spurs fans have not been kind. What can you say about this team?
Oh gosh, there are a lot of thoughts that I've got, and you're not wrong. Spurs Twitter is, really brutal at times. I think, yeah,
And
yes, you are 100% correct that it has been brutal. I don't know. Last time I was here speaking with you, I remember we were probably in fifth, like in the fifth seed. And I was like, yeah, this team's going to be awesome. Like when they get all the pieces together. And it's just looked really bad. I don't know what went wrong, or honestly, I don't even know what started this. I didn't think that the LaMarcus Aldridge thing was going to affect them so much because they have been playing without him. But it does seem like after he left, he left, the Spurs just have been on this downward decline. And I mean, there's also the issue of Lonnie Walker being out for the last few games. There's a lot of little things. I thought at first maybe Derek White was, trying to find his way and adjust. Looks like he's done that, but it hasn't affected the outcome of games. There's just a lot going on that I feel like it's a lot. I mean, I definitely think that they have a lot of work to improve. I don't know where they're going to end up this season. I'm always hopeful, but I am just at a loss for words. I didn't think that this homestand was going to go like this. I think if anything, everyone thought that it was going to be the beginning of, an upward climb for them to end this season and get the momentum going for the rest of this really rough schedule. But it didn't look that way. Hoping that this road trip that they go on is going to give them some good luck because they're pretty good on the road. But I do have to say that I think Spurs Twitter is being a little harsh. I don't think that, it's all or nothing. It can't be all or nothing all the time. They're going to have bad, rough patches. They're not a top tier team yet. And that's just something that's going to come with it. And if you're a fan, support them. Yes, be critical, but it can't always be tank. They're never going to tank.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and ask a harder question of Josh. Josh, Spurs fans were not kind to one Coach Pop. After the loss, they were kind of calling for Coach Pop. I even heard some stuff on the radio too, fans calling in saying the same thing. At this point in time, it's not all Coach Pop's fault. There are questionable lineups being run. One of the things that Spurs Twitter has a big issue with is Coach Pop and him actually running the heck out of both Rudy Gay and Patty Mills. He has Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell right there on the bench, just sitting there, not contributing in crunch time. And we've seen that a heavy dose of Patty and Rudy Gay is not conducive to you winning a game. It doesn't happen. That's the crew he's going to roll out with, and that's who he's going with. But at this juncture, I guess Spurs fans are looking for someone to shoulder the blame. So who are we calling out, Josh, for these losses?
gosh. I mean, I feel like maybe you read my article recently talking about that exact thing, because yeah, I did kind of a little call out of Pop, but in that I also said, it's you can't blame one person for this. There's rotation problems. There's a lot of defensive issues. Nobody can hit a three. There's just a lot going on. So people that are calling for his head obviously are going way overboard, because I mean, he's had what, 1.5 losing season now since since Tim, and then after Kawhi and everything,
Or the
everything kind of.
lineup that they're questioning at this point.
Right. And that's what I did too. And whenever I was writing about it, I even tweeted about it. Even in the first half of the last game, I just kind of, no context, I just kind of shared how Luka and I think Jang and Devin didn't get that many minutes, and Patty and Rudy were right up there, and of course they were struggling. So it's easy to get that reaction. So I kind of, I guess, add fuel to it. But at the same time, I know that it's still a process, and it's something that's kind of, it's stubbornness, I'd say, from his lineup sometimes. But at the same time, I mean, Rudy and Patty are veterans. They have their moments. They should be able to step up, even if the entire team is tired. He definitely deserves some of a call out with some of these lineups, but I'm not in the camp where it's like, okay, he needs to go now, because I mean, it's Coach Pop.
Yeah, well, we have somebody watching on Twitter called Mr. Ass, and he says the entire group has played poorly since the break, regardless of rotations. He's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong.
Team is gonna lose or win games collectively, and right now you can't have one player or coach shoulder the blame for the whole team's demise as of late. This is something that has to be called out somewhere, in private somewhere. They got to look at each other, have a players meeting of some sorts, and say, look, we know we're capable of playing better than what we've been playing as of late. Right now it's a mental game. It's a mental aspect of it. Whatever they got to do, soul searching, somebody go to yoga, go to their place of zen, whatever they got to do, they got to do it now, because they're falling and they're declining right now. They're just slipping and slipping. As of right this exact point in time in the Western Conference, the Spurs find themselves as the 9th seed, one game behind the Memphis Grizzlies. And they're playing the Denver Nuggets tonight on the first game of a back-to-back. Does not bode well for them. If they keep on losing, I think if they lose 2 more games, that's it. They're out of playoff contention. They're going to go from the 9th seed, probably finding themselves in the 10th or even the 11th seed, and it's going to be hard to catch up because of the schedule that's ahead of them. It's one of the toughest schedules that any team has out there for the rest of the season, so whatever they're going to do, they got to do it now. And let's see what some of our listeners are saying. We have Jake Fonzie, and let's go ahead and put his, let me see. I'll put his on there. Here we go. Now I got it. Jake Fonzie says, you'll never make any noise when DeRozan is your best player. The Spurs have a great supporting cast with young guns, need a quality alpha player. He's kind of not wrong there. I mean, we've seen what the team can do with DeMar DeRozan. I love DeMar DeRozan. He's one of the better players that we have, one of the most consistent players that we have. But unfortunately for DeMar, we don't have a great supporting cast surrounding him. We have a lot of mediocrity. We have role players. We have players in place right now that aren't legitimate alphas. They're not NBA stars in the making. That's where we're at right now. So what do you have to say to some of these fans, Vicky?
I mean, I don't disagree. I don't think that DeMar can be the lone superstar. He's a great player, but I don't think teams do well unless you've got, a Kobe or, I mean, a superstar. I don't think teams will do well unless you have somebody that is always consistently able to be that second player, so that they have that support. Right, yeah. Exactly. So I think that it's not wrong, but I do have to say that I don't think that the current roster isn't capable in the future. I think that a lot of the pieces, the younger pieces, Keldon Johnson is developing really well. He's got to, continue with that. But I do think that eventually there will be players that could be that second, but there's going to be a rough time until then, unless the Spurs do end up creating space and bringing in some big name. It can't be somebody mediocre though. And right now, just the way they move players, the way they've done things. And of course, now we're past, trade deadlines, but I don't really see them doing anything in the off season either. I don't know where DeRozan is going to go. Hopefully, I don't know. I'd like him to stay with the Spurs, but I do think that something has to happen, and that's going to mean moving somebody that is right now contributing to the Spurs. Because even though there are so many faults with this team, everyone is contributing almost on an equal sort of basis. So it's tough. I think it's tough for the front office and having to make that decision of who do you sacrifice, because I think right now they've got a lot of the same level talent. And it's a little difficult for them trying to decide who's going to go. But I don't think that, you can't just scrap Patty's minutes or Rudy Gay's minutes, because they still have that veteran status. Maybe they're not performing as well all the time, but if you put Luka in for the exact same amount of time that you put Rudy in, it doesn't mean he's going to perform better. Yes, he'll get that experience, but they're weighing their options, and they're also having to save the health of all of these players right now with this really tough schedule.
Yeah, I gotta kind of agree with some of what you're saying. I want to hear what Josh has to say. But before we go ahead and pitch it to Josh, our good friend Benjamin Bornstein sent us a comment. He says, in his extreme Denzel Washington voice from Remember the Titans, let the boys play. And he's talking about Vassell, Luka, and the big body, of course, Keldon Johnson. And then we have another comment here from a viewer who's watching us from Facebook. Thank you for watching. It's Lana Ali Penn. She says, anyone has an accurate number for Patty's fourth quarter 3-point percentage?
Yeah, we got to get Paul in here. I feel like it's not great.
Yeah, and our good friend Noah Magarro George, he says hi. Hey Noah. And then we have Mr. Ass again going ahead and giving us some comments. He says lack of shot creation and spacing is a huge problem. It is, and then he had another comment here. He puts, for all of LMA's problems, he drew attention away from the slashers like Keldon, and they benefited. Again, he's not wrong there. But right now, currently, as the Spurs are constructed, Josh, we kind of went through this in the last Spurs Rewind. They become one-dimensional, and basically what happens at this point in time and what other teams have caught on to is just take away their ability to, kind of slash their way to the rim. Once you do that, you make them a jump shooting team, and then you're daring the Spurs to beat you from beyond 15 to 20 feet. And not only that, from beyond the arc as well. You're like, go ahead, you got a wide open three, take it. You're not very good. And, teams aren't wrong in that assumption. I mean, we're not a very good 3-point shooting team. I think at this point in time, when I'm looking at the stats from Basketball Reference, the San Antonio Spurs are just mediocre when you're looking at stats across the board. They're kind of the middle of the road, kind of team playing 500 ball, which we've seen. We look exactly at the stat line here, holding opponents points. They're 18 out of 30 teams. Points per game, they're 110.5, 21st out of 30 teams. Their pace, they're 15th out of 30 teams. Offensive rating, 19th out of 30 teams. Their defensive rating is a little better. They're 12th out of 30 teams. But their expected win-loss is not good. They're looking at 22 and 26, not boding well, man. Right now, they are playing every bit as the 500 ball that we've been seeing as of late, and then we're going to go ahead and right now, I think it's a good segue to start jumping into an article that I saw that Josh had written for Air Alamo. And it's about the DeMar DeRozan rumor. With LaMarcus Aldridge leaving, as we have seen, I think it sent a clear message to DeMar that the San Antonio Spurs are not a team that's going to contend anytime soon, not within the next 2, maybe 3 seasons from now. And unfortunately, Lamar wanted to go and, play for a contender because he's getting up there in age. Maybe this sends a clear message to DeMar. Maybe he's going to go ahead and see what's out there in free agency, which he has every right to do so. And I got nothing but respect for him. And if he decides to, sign with another team because he wants to go and play for a contender and win a chip, that's on him. Good for him. But what do you think of this rumor? It shouldn't really be a surprise to us, right? Right, Josh?
No, I mean, we could all kind of see the writing on the wall at this point. And just to kind of go over what the rumor was, is that he's going to keep his free agency options wide open, meaning he could basically go anywhere that he thinks will fit well with him and can pay him. There's been a lot of speculation because he's kind of probably going to want near max, maybe something like 28 million, which only very few teams could do. Like I'm kind of just what I've been reading. Then like the Knicks would be an option, but if he wants to win, I'm not sure why he would go there. So it's really going to be interesting to see how that's dealt with. The best case scenario would be a team that he wants to go to and they want him, but they can't afford him. Maybe a sign and trade type of situation would be the best case. It'll be kind of like help with all these complaints about, him not being dealt earlier, which are valid. At the same time, at the trade deadline, I feel like there wasn't much that was being offered for him. And if anything, maybe there were contracts that the Spurs didn't want to take on because they're in this phase. So I feel like there's a lot of calling out the front office for not dealing him. But at the same time, you got to make sure it's worth it and not just put yourself back in a situation where you're keeping a contract that you're going to be stuck with, or players, or, the money's going to not be good in the offseason. So I wouldn't blame him for going. I think the Spurs can be fine without him. It's going to be tough closing out games, figuring out who's going to be your next alpha, even if he's not an NBA alpha, like, big time. But I could see it working either way. I kind of am leaning toward it being better for both if he does leave, and hopefully the Spurs can get something for him. But I think it could still work either way.
And Vicky's going to say, "Oh, I don't want him to go." But Vicky, what are you going to say?
Yes, I know. I mean, I just think right now the Spurs are a very young team. And I think that having that veteran, a leader that is, at the level of DeRozan is beneficial to the younger team members. But I do see how it could work out both ways. Just as Josh was saying, I think that, if they do decide to part, it's going to be a challenge for the Spurs. But in the end, maybe that's going to force the younger guys into learning things on their own and starting to pave that way. I know some people are like tired of hearing about it, but the young players on this team are the future. And that is what the Spurs front office is focusing on. So they're trying to build something for a couple years down the line. It's not going to be immediate, instant gratification with them, but they're trying to see how they're going to be able to transition to that. So I do see how DeMar leaving is a definite possibility. And I think that, him leaving his options open is expected. I will be sad if he does end up leaving. I hate having those like veteran players come and it not working out. But
Are you going to cry, Vicky? Don't lie.
Probably. I probably would. I just, even with LaMarcus, like it's sad that it didn't work out, I think the way that he intended it to. So, I could see it going again also either way. And I could see them doing good things with both. But I think in the long run, definitely their priority is focusing on building the team around the younger guys.
Yeah. And if DeMar decides to leave because he wants to, get paid and he wants to play for a contender, I mean, so be it. At some juncture, we knew that this was going to be a season of growth. I kind of said that since the beginning of the season, before it even started. Don't expect the team to make the playoffs. You're going to look for the growth of the younger players. But by Coach Pop running these weird lineups out there and giving the vets a lot of run, he's not fully going youth movement. And it's kind of disheartening to Spurs fans because you have some of your younger players that could be getting great minutes out there and good experience. and they're just riding the bench. To me, that makes no sense whatsoever, especially when you're getting blown out by a team like the Cavaliers, where you got no chance of coming back. Sit your veterans, let the younger players get some run, get some experience out there. It's going to help the team in the long run. Why that doesn't happen, I have no idea what's going on. Another head scratcher. But as we start bringing this show to a close, because we're all going to want to watch the game in a little bit, so we got to eat and get
Are
ready.
we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch.
Watch
I'm
like
gonna watch
this.
the trailer.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna watch the trailer. Probably like Vicky, but I'm gonna watch it. Let's go ahead and give our predictions. The Spurs are gonna have a 5-game roadie coming up. The first game is tonight against the Denver Nuggets. We're gonna get predictions real quick. We'll go down the line. Vicky, give us your prediction. What do you think the Spurs are gonna do in the 5-game roadie?
Oh gosh. I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm a hopeful person. I'm gonna say 3-2.
Oh, you're too kind, Vicky.
I
Josh,
mean,
Josh, I know you're not gonna be as kind as Vicky. Give it to us, man. What's your prediction?
I gotta go 2-3. I think Magic and Raptors should be the ones. They are supposed to be good against the bad teams, especially on the road. It doesn't quite translate at home. I don't see them being able to beat the Nuggets either time or the Mavericks. I think they're both on 5-game winning streaks right now, or maybe 6 for the Nuggets. So yeah, 2-3, best case. I mean, if they could surprise me, great. I hope they will.
yeah.
Sadly, I'm gonna go with our good friend Rudy Campos Jr. They're going 1-4. They're going 1-4. Yeah, Rudy's right. It's been a nice ride. It's been a nice ride, but sadly, I just don't see them really playing much better. Even with the return of certain players coming back in, I think DeJounte's going to be available for tonight's game. I think it's just going to be too much to handle, especially from a really good Nuggets team. And then the Spurs have trouble, with these other teams on the road. Watch them have a good game against, the Mavericks, and
Yeah,
all
and
of a
then
sudden they just get blown out of the water by the Magic, and then they play the Raptors. Same scenario could happen there as well. I just don't trust them right now, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Rudy and go 1-4. I'm just trying to be realistic. I'm not trying to be ugly. I'm just saying it is the state of things right now.
I mean, they could have a better chance if they get Mr. S in the front office to help out.
Right?
yeah.
Come in with some facts
Somebody
here.
who can make some change. But
Yeah.
sadly, that's what we're going to be looking at. I'm still going to watch to see what the team does, and even in the losses, see how they're growing, see how they're coming together in certain areas, that might show some improvement. I don't mind the losses as long as we can see improvement, especially in the way that they run our younger core out there. Some of these lineups kind of got to change, and if we have the same thing happen night in and night out, we know what's going to be the same result. An L. We're going to take an L. I don't want to see a heavy dose of Rudy. And I don't want to see Patty out there again.
I just want to see them look like they're ready to play. I want to see them not with their heads down in the second quarter.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. Obviously, I want to win, but it's not really something I expect the next few games. But I want to see them not just looking down because they're getting bad calls or getting blown out. That's just not Spurs basketball in my mind.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and bring this show to a close because I got to go pick up my car because I got to get back on the road. So as we go ahead and bring it to a close, let's go ahead and go down the line. Vicky, where can they follow you on social media?
Twitter at the Vicky Vix. The VICKIEVIX.
You always get yourself tripped up, and I love seeing it. Funny. Vicky, we're gonna have to put a sticker on your monitor. Vicky's the one that never can remember her own Twitter handle.
Just get a hat. Put a hat on with her.
And Josh, where can they interact with you on social media?
Also, Twitter, Josh810, Josh810. You can find me. I'm posting my articles there all the time, sharing some Spurs facts. That's about it.
Okay, and you can interact with me at Two Shots Podcast, spelled out TWO, Two Shots Podcast on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. So for Vicky Vix, Josh Paredes,
and Joe Garcia.
And Joe Garcia. Well, we're going to go ahead and sign off here for Project Spurs. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Spurs Rewind, and go Spurs go.